Okay. Last time I told you we will be with the Buddha for some more time. So today I'll tell you something more about the Buddha, the life of the Buddha. When we study the teachings of the Buddha, I think it is also important to know something about the life of the Buddha. And when we know the life of the Buddha, how he struggled and how he sacrificed in order to become the Buddha, we can have more appreciation and understanding of his teachings. And last time I told you a very brief account of the life of the Buddha, and this time we'll go into a little more detail. First, about his birth. So Buddha was born 624 BC on the full moon day of the month of May. And the time of his birth was not given in the accounts, but it seemed that he was born in the morning, because in the afternoon the sage Kaladevala came to see the Bodhisattva. So probably it was in the morning that he was born, and the place he was born was the Lumbini Park, a garden or a small forest not far from the city of Kapilavatthu. And his parents were King Suddhodana and Queen Mahamaya. So he was born of King Suddhodana and Queen Mahamaya on a full moon day of May 624 BC in the morning in the Lumbini Park near the city of Kapilavatthu. And in the afternoon, the ascetic named Kaladevala or Asita came to the palace to see the newborn baby. Kaladevala was in the habit of coming to King Suddhodana and took food there and then talked with him, and he went away. So this time he came to see the newborn baby, and when he arrived, King Suddhodana made the newborn baby pay homage to the ascetic. But the feet of the newborn baby got on the head of the ascetic, and so ascetic Kaladevala bowed down through the infant baby. And when the king saw this, the king himself also bowed down to his own son. When the ascetic saw the child, first he laughed and then he cried. The king was alarmed and so asked the reason for his laughing and crying. Then the ascetic said, I laughed because this child will definitely become a Buddha for the benefit of all beings. And he said, I cried because I will not live to see this child become a Buddha, because he was to die before the child became the Buddha. So first he laughed and then he cried, and he told the king that the child will definitely become a Buddha. On the 5th day after birth of the child, the king held a name-giving ceremony. 8 Brahmins were invited to read the signs, special signs in the child. Now, 7 older Brahmins read the signs, and then they made a prophecy that if the child leads a household life, then he would become a universal monarch. And if the child chose to become a monk, chose to renounce the world, then he would become the Buddha. But the youngest of them all, Kondanya by name, gave only one prophecy, and that is, a person possessing such signs will not remain in the household life, but definitely renounce the world and become the Buddha. And the name Siddhartha was given to the child. Siddhartha means purpose accomplished. Another incident important in the life of Siddhartha was the plowing ceremony done by the king himself. Now, in order to promote cultivation, in the olden days, the king and his ministers and his officials did the ceremonial plowing of the fields. So at that ceremony, the king took his son with him and then left the son with the attendants under a tree, and he went to participate in the plowing ceremony. Then the attendants, the nurses and others, wanted to see the grand performance of the king. So they left the child under the tree and went to see the plowing ceremony. When nobody was around, actually the child was kept in a cover. A curtain was put around him. So when nobody was there, the child sat up and then practiced the breathing in and breathing out meditation. And it is said that he attained the first jhana. After some time, the attendants remembered that they had left the child, and so they went back to the child, and to their surprise they saw the child sitting in meditation. So they were surprised, and they informed to the king, and the king came to his son, and when he saw his son in a meditative posture, actually sitting in the first jhana, he bowed down again to the infant. So this was the second bowing down of the father to the son. Now this incident is important because it was the recollection of this incident that the ascetic Gautama, after some years he will become an ascetic Gautama. So ascetic Gautama was able to discover the right path or the right practice. Our books did not say when this plowing ceremony took place, but since Bodhisattva was an infant, not old enough to go to the ceremony with his father, and also since plowing ceremony was done every year, we may take that this particular plowing ceremony took place when Bodhisattva was less than 1 year old. So Siddhartha grew up as a prince, and at the age of 16 he was married to Princess Yasodhara. Now, in those times people married young, and he enjoyed the life of a prince. He enjoyed the life of luxury for 13 years. And it is said in our books that King Suddhodana, his father, did not want him to become a Buddha, because he wanted him to become a universal monarch. So King Suddhodana provided his son with every kind of sensual pleasure available in those times. So for 13 years the Prince Siddhartha enjoyed the life of a prince. But in his 29th year, the gods thought that it was time to remind Prince Siddhartha of his mission. So they showed him the 4 great signs. So the prince was in the habit of going to his pleasure garden every now and then, and so one day he went to his pleasure garden, and on his way he saw an old man. And then 4 months later he saw a sick man, and still 4 months later he saw a dead man. So after seeing these 3 signs, he came to see the realities of life, that life is full of suffering. People have to become old, sick, and at the end die, and he cannot escape old age, disease, and death. So on the last trip to the pleasure garden, he saw a recluse, maybe sitting peacefully under a tree meditating. So when he saw the recluse, he understood that he must renounce the world in order to save beings, or in order to help beings save themselves from the sufferings of the round of rebirth. So he turned back to his palace after seeing the recluse. Now at that time, when he had got into the chariot, the news of the birth of a son came to him. Now normally a father would be very delighted when the news of the birth of a son comes to him, but Siddhartha here was not delighted, because he was bent on renouncing the world, and so he considered a birth of a son as a bondage. So when he heard the news, he said, "Oh, a Rahu has been born, a bondage has been born." When King Suddhodana news about what Siddhartha said, at the news he named the child of Siddhartha, Rahula. So that after saying that, he went back to the palace, and as soon as he arrived at the palace, he was treated to the sensual pleasures again by his retinue. But when they were entertaining him, he went to sleep, and when he woke up, he saw people, especially women, who are entertaining him in disarray and sleeping here and there, and so he saw it as a cemetery. So he decided then and there to renounce the world. And before leaving the palace, he wanted to see his wife and son, so he went to the sleeping chamber of his wife and saw his wife sleeping, having an arm over the head of the newborn child. So he wanted to pick the child up and maybe kiss him or something like that, but he thought, if I did that, Yasodhara will wake up and I will not be able to renounce the world. So he said to himself, I will see him after I become the Buddha. So that night, with one follower, with one servant, he left the palace, and that was on the full moon day of July. At the city gate, it is said that the city gate was very difficult to open. About 1,000 men would be needed to open the city gate, but the gods opened the gate, and so he was able to get out easily. But at that time, Mara, the evil one, appeared to him and dissuaded him, telling him that after 7 days, Bodhisattva would become a universal monarch. But Bodhisattva said, I don't want to become a universal monarch. I want to become a Buddha to help beings save themselves. So he dismissed the Mara, the evil one, and went on. And in one night, it is said that he reached the river Anoma, and he caused the horse to jump to the other bank of Anoma. And after reaching the other bank, he ordained, he cut his hair and then put on the robes of an ascetic. After meeting King Bimbisara, he met 2 teachers, but not at the same time, one after another. First he met the teacher called Alara Kalama, and he practiced with that teacher, and he attained what that teacher has attained. But he found out that attainment did not lead to emancipation, or did not lead to freedom from suffering, and so he left that teacher and went to another teacher called Uddaka Ramaputra. He learned from that teacher the practice of meditation, and he practiced, and he reached what that teacher taught, and he found again that attainment could not lead him to the eradication of mental defilements and to escape from suffering, he left that teacher again. So after that he was alone, and he went from place to place, and he reached a place called Uruvela, a delightful, a peaceful place for fit for meditation. So he settled there and practiced what are called practices difficult to practice, that austere practices. And at that time, Kondanya, the person who foretold that Bodhisattva would definitely become the Buddha. So Kondanya went to the sons of other Brahmins, because the other Brahmins had died and their sons only lived at that time. So he went to them and told them that he was going to where the ascetic Gautama was, and whether they would like to go with him. And 3 did not want to go with him, but 4 sons decided to go with him, and so 5 of them went to where the ascetic Gautama was practicing austerities and attended to his needs. His austere practices were related by himself where after he became the Buddha. And we can read the practices in some discourses in the Majjhima Nikaya, the collection of middle length sayings. So he practiced so severely, or he practiced so much that he became very, very weak. And you may have seen the pictures of ascetic Gautama practicing austerities, just the bones and skin remain and so on. Now at that time, Mara the evil one came to him and dissuaded him from the practice. He said, "You are going to die, you are too thin now, so there are pleasures to be enjoyed and so on." But Bodhisattva dismissed him and went on with his austere practices. So that went on for nearly 6 years. So towards the end of the 6th year, Bodhisattva reviewed his practice. He thought to himself, "I have been practicing these austere practices for many years, and I have not become any nearer to my goal. It might not be the right one." And then he decided that these practices were not the real, the correct practices. So at that critical moment, he recollected the incident at the plowing ceremony, that he, as a child, he entered into the first jhana and he was very peaceful and happy at that time. And so he thought to himself, might that be the right path? And then he decided that, yeah, that is the right path. So he decided to follow that path. But his body was very weak. So in that bodily condition, he knew that he could not carry on the practice. So he began to take food again. Formerly, he reduced his intake of food little by little, so that sometimes he ate only a handful of pea soup, or sometimes he might even eat just one seed or one fruit a day. So after he decided to take food again, and he did take food again, the 5 ascetics, the 5 disciples were disillusioned with him. They thought that the Bodhisattva had abandoned the right path and now going after luxury. So they left him in disgust, and went to another place. So Bodhisattva was left alone again. After Bodhisattva gained strength, one day, that is on the full moon day of May 589 BC, he was sitting under a tree, and at the time a lady named Sujata came to him and offered him rice porridge. He accepted the rice porridge along with the bowl, and then he took bath in Niranjara river nearby, and then he ate the porridge and put the bowl in the river, and it is said that the bowl went upstream and then sank. And during daytime he sat under a tree, and in the evening he went towards what is now known as Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree is actually a banyan tree, but since Bodhi or enlightenment was gained under the tree was called a Bodhi tree. So he went towards the Bodhi tree, and on his way to the Bodhi tree, a grass cutter met him and offered him 8 bundles of grass. So he took those bundles of grass, and then after reaching the Bodhi tree, he spread the grass on the ground and sat at the foot of the Bodhi tree, facing eastward. And then he made a very firm resolution that let my skin, sinews and bones remain, let my flesh and blood dry up, but I will not give up effort to gain what can be gained only by manly effort. That means I will. And then he made a resolution, I will not change this posture. I will not get up from this posture until I reach Buddhahood. So he made this firm resolution. And at that time, it was about sunset. Mara, the evil one, came again. This time, according to our books, with his army, the great army. And Mara tried to frighten the Bodhisattva away from the place, but Bodhisattva stood firm. I mean, he sat firm, and in the end, Mara was defeated. So after the defeat of Mara, Bodhisattva practiced meditation to reach Buddhahood. During the first watch of the night, he practiced again the mindfulness of breathing meditation, and he gained 4 jhanas in succession, first, second, third, fourth, and also he gained the 4 immaterial jhanas, and also he gained the supernormal knowledge by which he could remember all his past lives. So during the first watch of the night, he gained the supernormal knowledge of remembering all his past lives. And during the middle watch of the night, he gained the supernormal knowledge by which he could see beings dying from one existence and being reborn in another existence. And he also saw that a particular being died from one existence and reborn in another existence according to his own karma. this being is born in hell as a result of unwholesome deeds he did in the previous life, and this being is reborn in the celestial world as a result of wholesome deeds he did in his previous life, and so on. So Buddha, he was still a bodhisattva at that time, so bodhisattva could see all these the beings dying and being reborn as if it were on a screen. So this helps the Buddha to formulate the law of karma. Now, the law of karma taught by the Buddha was not founded on just logic. Actually, it was founded on his own intuition, own direct understanding of the law of karma. Knew dependent origination before he became the Buddha. So he practiced vipassana on these 12 factors of dependent origination, again, back and forth, again and again. And as a result of that vipassana practice, at dawn, he gained the supernormal knowledge by which he was able to eradicate all mental defilements. And at the same moment, he gained what we call omniscience, knowing everything. So with the attainment of the supernormal knowledge of the destruction of mental defilements and omniscience, he became the Buddha. So Bodhisattva became the Buddha on the full moon day of May 589 BC at the age of 35. After he became the Buddha, he spent 8 weeks under and near the Bodhi tree. And exactly 2 months after his enlightenment, he gave his first sermon to the 5 disciples at Isipatana near Varanasi, where they were now living. And about midnight that night, Buddha gave his second sermon to the Yakhas, Hemavata and Satagiri. And 5 days after the full moon day, or on the 5th day after the full moon day, Buddha gave his third sermon, the sermon on non-soul nature of all things. And after the first sermon, one of the 5 disciples became a Sotapanna, and on successive days each one gained Sotapannahood. And so on the 5th day, Buddha taught them the sermon on non-soul nature of things, and they became arahants. And Buddha spent the first rainy season at Isipatana. After that, Buddha visited Rajagaha, where King Bimbisara lived. So Buddha met Bimbisara, and King Bimbisara offered him the bamboo grove. Buddha accepted it and spent the second rainy season there. Then 1 year after his enlightenment, Buddha visited his native city, Kapilavatthu, to see his father and his relatives. So he met his father and relatives, and he preached to his father, and his father became enlightened as a Sotapanna first, and then as a Sakadagami, and then as an Anagami. So his father reached 3 stages of enlightenment on his first visit. And also his half-brother Nanda and his son Rahula were ordained. So they became monks, and many princes of Sakya race became monks under him. And Buddha taught for 45 years, and when he taught day and night. Now Buddha did not sleep as we do. He just lay down on his right side and took rest. Now when we read his daily routine, his daily schedule, and the daily schedule is given in the commentaries. So when we read the daily schedule, we find that Buddha rested for about, or not more than 4 hours a day. At other times, he was doing something, teaching lay people, or teaching monks, or teaching or answering questions of celestial beings. So about 20 hours a day he worked energetically for the welfare of all beings. Now after becoming the Buddha, he could easily retire, but he did not retire, and he taught day and night to all beings who came to him or who met him, and he helped countless beings save themselves during these 45 years. So Buddha was the most energetic religious teacher known to history. He worked for 45 years, and those 45 years he worked day and night, just taking rest for about 4 hours a day, or not more than 4 hours a day. So when we study his daily routine, we cannot but admire his compassion for all beings and his effort, his making effort to save, I want to say save, right? To save as many beings as possible. And here save means not saving himself, but saving, helping beings save themselves. So he taught for 45 years for the welfare of all beings, not only human beings but all beings, and for lay people as well as monks. And at the age of 80, he passed away on a full moon day of May in a grove of some trees, sala trees, near the city of Kusinara. So Buddha passed away at the age of 80 on the full moon day of May. Okay, so full moon day of May comes to be very important to all Buddhists, because it was on the full moon day of May that he was born, and it was on the full moon day of May that he became enlightened as a Buddha, and it was on this day that he passed away. So we call it thrice blessed day in the life of the Buddha. Now some some things to understand about the Buddha. As I said before in my first class, Buddha was not a god, not God with capital G, because according to Buddha, there was no God who creates the universe and its inhabitants. Then was he a God with a small g? Was he a celestial being? No, he was not a God or a celestial being. And he was not a prophet or messenger of God, simply, again, because according to him, there was no God, or God was non-existent. Then was he a savior? Did Buddha save beings? Not in the Christian sense. So Buddha just helped beings save themselves. So he was not a savior. Then what was he? Buddha said, just know me as a Buddha. Now he was a human being, right? But not an ordinary human being. He was an extraordinary human being. Human being so extraordinary that he excelled even the gods, the celestial beings, and Brahmas, who are the higher celestial beings. So Buddha came to be known as the best among all beings, not the best among all human beings, but the best among all beings, including gods and Brahmas. And Buddha possessed innumerable qualities. Among them we should understand the purity of mind, total purity of mind, and omniscience. These are very important qualities. So Buddha's mind is totally pure, without any trace of any mental defilements. And Buddha possessed what we call omniscience. That is, he knows everything. And Buddha himself claimed to be omniscient when he said to Upaka, the ascetic, whom he met on his way to Varanasi. And there Buddha said, I am the knower of all. So that means I am omniscient. So Buddha possessed these qualities: total purity of mind and omniscience. Where is the Buddha now? Does he exist in some form somewhere? According to the teachings of Theravada, Buddha is no more. Just as a flame goes out, Buddha died and there was no more existence or no more rebirth for him. So, according to Theravada teachings, there is no Buddha now. Then how can he help us when he is no more with us? Now, somebody invented electricity, electric bulbs, and make use of electricity. They are no more, right? But we are enjoying the benefits of his invention. So the man who invented wireless is no more now, but we enjoy listening to radio and all these things. So although Buddha is not with us now, he left his teachings. Before he died, he said, when I'm gone, my teachings will be teachers for you. So we have his teachings now, and so we enjoy his teachings, or the benefits of his teachings. So although Buddha is no more now, since his teachings are available now, we are as good as having the Buddha. Now, can Buddha forgive sins? Now, sin, we are using this word in a Buddhist sense. So, unwholesome actions, unwholesome deeds, unwholesome speech and unwholesome thoughts, these we call akusala. So let us call them sins. Can Buddha forgive sins? Say we do some akusala, and then can we ask pardon from the Buddha? Please forgive us our sins. And can Buddha forgive us? No. Buddha cannot forgive the sins simply because it is impossible to forgive. And these are sins not because Buddha said these were sins, but because they are sins. So it is the other way around. Because they are sins, the Buddha said they are. And Buddha did not create sins. And when, say, we do sins, that is just our actions. We do something, and this is our doing, our action. And so this cannot be undone by anybody. So Buddha cannot give sins means not because he did not want to forgive, but because he cannot forgive sins, or because it is impossible to forgive sins. That is why we say Buddhas say do not forgive sins. Is Buddha capable of love and compassion? Buddha had great love, a boundless love and compassion for all beings. But the love Buddha had for beings is not love mixed with or accompanied by attachment or ill will or delusion. It is metta, the wholesome desire for the well-being of all beings. And also Buddha had what we call the great compassion. That means Buddha had compassion for all beings without any exception. So in Buddhism, we do not say that Buddha has compassion for his followers only and not for other people who are not his followers. So whether you are his follower or not, Buddha had compassion for you. So Buddha's love and compassion for beings is for all beings without exception. So Buddha is capable of the greatest love and greatest compassion. Is Buddha capable of doing harm to others? Since Buddha possessed total purity of mind, Buddha never do any harm to any being at all. Even to those who attempted his life, Buddha felt only compassion and not anger, and Buddha did not harm any being at all. So there is no mention of Buddha killing any living being or killing many people or inflicting punishment or suffering to beings. So we can live in safety concerning the Buddha. We will not get any harm or any punishment or whatever from the Buddha. So Buddha is not capable of doing harm to any being. Now, how many Buddhas are there? Is there only one Buddha? Yes, there is only one Buddha at a time. Although there were many Buddhas in the past, and there will come many Buddhas in the future. At one given present moment, present time, there can be only one Buddha in the world. And it is explained in our books that the world cannot hold two Buddhas at a time. If there were two Buddhas, then there would be some kind of competition among his disciples, and so there is only one Buddha at a time. Although many Buddhas have appeared in the past, and many Buddha will appear in the future. Now, can you become a Buddha? Can anybody become a Buddha? Yes, if he or she is willing to fulfill the perfections of paramis. If he or she is willing to suffer in the samsara for a long, long time, accumulating the perfections. So, in theory, anybody can become a Buddha, but not everybody becomes a Buddha in reality. Only very, very few become Buddhas, because to become a Buddha is not an easy job. So it takes a very, very long time to accumulate the necessary qualifications, and also those who aspired for Buddhahood had to practice to sacrifice many things in their lives, even their lives themselves, and so it is very difficult to fulfill these qualifications, and so it is difficult to become a Buddha. Just as not everybody, I mean, what can I say that? I cannot say every citizen, right? So every native citizen can become a president of the United States. They have the right to become the president of the United States, but not everybody will become the president. So only one will become a president at one time. So in the same way, although we can say that beings have a potential to become a Buddha, not everybody will become the Buddha. Only very, very few will become. Since anybody who is willing to suffer in the samsara and accumulate the perfections can become a Buddha, must everybody try to become a Buddha? Now, in Theravada, you are not forced to try to become a Buddha. You are given a choice. You can try to become a Buddha, or a Pacceka Buddha, or an Arahant. So at least there are three paths or three ways open to you, and you can choose anyone you like. So according to Theravada teachings, we cannot say you must try to become a Buddha. But if you want to, if you are willing to fulfill the paramis and willing to help beings save themselves, then you can try to become a Buddha. If you don't want to spend a long, long time in the samsara, but want to get out of this samsara pretty soon, then you may choose the path of Arahants. So it is up to you to try to become a Buddha, or a Pacceka Buddha, or an Arahant. Then how long does it take for a person to become a Buddha after the formal aspiration for Buddhahood? Formal aspiration means making the aspiration in the presence of another Buddha. Now, as you know, how long? 4 incalculables and 100,000 eons or world cycles, right? That is the shortest time. For some Buddhas, 8 incalculables and 100,000 world cycles. And for another kind of Buddha, 16 incalculables and 100,000 world cycles. So you have to spend it. That number is for world cycles, and in one world cycle there can be many lives. So you have to go through billions of lives, accumulating the qualifications to become a Buddha. So if you're prepared to do that, you may aspire for Buddhahood. You talk about astronomy. You talk not in years, but you talk not in miles, not in kilometers, but in light years, millions of light years, right? So in the same way, when we talk about the time a person accumulates paramitas, we talk in incalculables. So incalculable means the number is so big that it is almost incalculable. It is almost cannot be counted. And if you want to count, then the number is the digit 1 followed by 140 zeros. That is one incalculable. Okay. These are some important things to know about the Buddha. Now sometimes I may take more time because I want you to understand many things, and also this class is only once a month. So I wish we could have this class twice a month or 4 times a month or every weekday. Okay.